In the deep silence of space where stars looked like frozen sparks, the Zerath Empire's exploration vessel Varun moved with calm precision. Its metal hull glowed faintly under the light of a dying red star. The crew on board was busy with their regular work, scanning planets, collecting samples, and updating charts. It was supposed to be a quiet mission, a simple patrol in an unclaimed region of space. Admiral Chronicles, commander of the Varun, stood near the large viewing window on the bridge. His species, the Zerath, were tall and silver-skinned, known for their intelligence and arrogance. They had traveled across hundreds of systems and found nothing that could challenge their empire. Most alien life they met was primitive, often still fighting for survival on their home planets. The Zerath considered themselves teachers of order and progress, but in truth they ruled by fear. That day, something unusual appeared on their sensors. A faint signal blinked near the edge of their radar. It wasn't natural. Its pattern was too perfect, too precise. "Report," Chronicles ordered. A young officer, nervous but excited, checked the data. "Admiral, we are detecting a metallic object. Large mass, but no life signs. Distance 0.4 light minutes. It's stationary, orbiting the dying star." Chronicles narrowed his eyes. "Show me." A holographic image appeared above the console, a long, angular shape surrounded by faint energy fields. The structure was dark, cold, and massive. It looked like a ship, but not one the Zerath had ever built. The hull was scarred yet intact. It floated in silence as if it had been waiting for someone to find it. The crew whispered among themselves. Could it be a lost colony ship? An old war relic? No one knew. Chronicles gave a small smile. "Prepare a full scan. Let us see what secrets it hides." The Varun slowly approached the object. As they came closer, their instruments began to struggle. The readings became unstable. Temperatures, mass, and radiation levels kept changing. It was like the ship didn't want to be scanned. "Strange," said the science officer, frowning at the data. "Our beams are being reflected. The surface absorbs half of our signals and sends back distorted waves." Chronicles stepped closer. "Identify the material." "Unknown, Admiral. The hull contains alloys we have never recorded. Even our deep sensors can't see through it." The silence on the bridge grew heavy. The Zerath prided themselves on their technology, but this single ship was defeating their instruments. That fact alone was unsettling. Finally, the computer completed a partial scan and displayed a word across the main screen. Designation, USS Resolute. The letters were strange, angular, and human-like in form. The language was unknown to them, but the translation system offered a basic guess. "It appears to be written in an old Terran dialect," said the linguist. "Possible origin, human." Chronicles frowned. "Human? That is not on our record of known species." The linguist nodded slowly. "Correct, Admiral. I checked our database. There are no records of any species identified as human. Perhaps it is ancient." Chronicles thought deeply. An ancient warship drifting near a dying star. It almost sounded like a legend. He walked back to the main window and looked at the massive, dark silhouette of the ship. "Bring us closer," he ordered quietly. "Let us see the face of this human relic." The Varun glided silently through the void until the alien vessel filled their view. It was enormous, almost 3 times larger than their own ship. Its design was simple: straight lines, heavy armor plates, thick cannon mounts along the sides. It looked more like a fortress than a ship. As the Varun's lights touched its surface, the hull reflected a dull gray shine. Burn marks covered parts of it. It had clearly seen battle, but still held its form perfectly. Whatever had built it had valued strength and endurance. The communications officer spoke, his voice a bit shaky. "No energy readings from the ship, Admiral. It appears inactive, but the reactor core still shows weak power. A few systems are flickering." Chronicles repeated, his tone sharp. "Yes, Admiral. Very faint, like the ship is sleeping." The word sleeping made some of the crew uncomfortable. Machines did not sleep. But there was something about the quiet presence of this ship that felt different. It was not like the empty wrecks they had studied before. It gave the strange impression of awareness, like it was watching them back. The science officer suggested, "It might be a derelict controlled by an old artificial intelligence. Should we board it, Admiral?" Chronicles considered it. "No, not yet. First, let's learn as much as we can from a distance. Increase scan power." As they intensified the scan beam, something unexpected happened. The Varun sensors began to return unstable feedback again. Energy spikes appeared along the warship's hull, small at first, then stronger. The bridge lights dimmed as interference filled the air. "Admiral," said the technician, alarmed, "the ship's systems are reacting to us. It's sending some kind of pulse." Before he could finish, the main screen flashed. A burst of static filled the air, followed by a faint, deep voice in an unknown language. The translation computer struggled for a few seconds, then displayed the words, "Unauthorized scan detected. Identify yourselves." The bridge went silent. Every Zerath froze. Kyrix felt his pulse quicken. "It's communicating." "Yes, Admiral," said the communications officer, his voice trembling. "The signal originates from the ship itself." "It's alive." Kyrix took a breath. "Respond. Tell it we are explorers. Tell it we mean no harm." They sent the message, but the reply came faster than expected, sharp and cold. "Explorers or invaders, all are judged by intent. Do not approach further." Kyrix looked at his officers. What kind of AI speaks like that? Its language carries emotion, almost human emotion. The science officer checked his data again. "Admiral, I think this ship is not just a machine. It might carry memories, perhaps even consciousness." The atmosphere on the bridge changed. Curiosity began to mix with fear. They were facing something ancient, powerful, and unpredictable. Hours passed. The Varun remained in orbit, keeping a safe distance. The crew observed the strange vessel, taking small scans and recording every detail. The ship's name, USS Resolute, appeared in several places along the hull, written proudly in bold letters. Below it, a faded symbol showed a circle of stars around a blue planet. No one knew its meaning. Late in the night cycle, Kyrix returned to his cabin but found no peace. He reviewed the data again and again. The material of the ship was still unknown. The design was too practical to be decorative, too battle-ready to be peaceful. And yet there was no sign of crew, no sign of damage inside. It was like the ship had outlived its makers and continued alone. He thought about the message. Explorers or invaders, all are judged by intent. The phrase echoed in his mind. Could this be the last guardian of a lost civilization? When Kyrix returned to the bridge, his officers had more news. "Admiral, the ship's energy levels have increased slightly. Internal systems are reactivating on their own." Kyrix frowned. "Is it responding to our presence?" "Possibly, Admiral. It might think we are a threat." He nodded slowly. "Then we must be careful. Prepare a controlled contact. I want to learn what this ship remembers about its makers." The communications officer hesitated. "Admiral, do you think the humans still exist?" Kyrix looked once more at the massive warship drifting against the red glow of the dying star. "If they built something like this," he said softly, "then I truly hope they do not." That night, while most of the crew rested, the USS Resolute emitted a faint blue glow from deep within its structure. Across its hull, hidden panels lit up with symbols in human script. Inside its silent corridors, dormant systems began to hum. Somewhere within, an ancient AI woke from centuries of sleep, sensing curious minds nearby. It did not yet know who they were, but it remembered one command written long ago by human hands: protect humanity, until the end of time. The next cycle on the Zerath exploration ship Varun began with quiet tension. No one had slept peacefully. Every crew member knew that the mysterious vessel drifting beside them was not ordinary. The USS Resolute, as the human ship called itself, had spoken, clear, intelligent words from the darkness of space. Most of the Zerath had never experienced anything like it. An ancient ship that talked back? It was as if a ghost had answered their call. Admiral Kyrix entered the bridge early, his expression calm but his eyes sharp. The crew stood quickly as he approached. He nodded for them to return to their stations. "Status report," he said. The science officer, a slender Zerath named Riln, replied nervously, "Admiral, the human warship remains inactive on the outside, but internal energy readings have increased again. The reactor is stable, but awake." Kyrix walked to the main window and gazed at the shadow of the massive ship. Its form hung against the glowing red star like a sleeping giant. "And our scans?" "Still incomplete, Admiral. Its hull keeps sending back noise and interference. It's as if the metal itself rejects our sensors." Kyrix tapped the railing softly with one hand. "Then we will scan deeper. We must learn what powers this relic. Begin a full spectrum sweep, maximum resolution." Several officers looked uneasy. The communication officer whispered, "Admiral, the last time we scanned, it reacted." Kyrix turned his head slightly. "I remember, but this time we will be prepared." He raised his hand. "Activate the deep scan." The hum of energy filled the Varun as powerful beams of light stretched from its hull toward the human ship. The scanners worked across multiple frequencies, touching every part of the USS Resolute's surface. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Lines of data appeared across the screens: composition, density, magnetic field strength. The officers worked quickly, trying to decode the strange materials. "Outer hull is a combination of titanium, carbon, and an unknown compound," said Riln. "It's impossible. No modern technology could keep this stable for such long ages." "Radiation shielding intact. Damage minimal," added another. "This ship is ancient but nearly perfect." Kyrix smiled slightly. "Whoever these humans were, they built to last." Then the readings changed. The scanning beams hit a new section of the hull, a deep scar across its left flank. And suddenly, the Varun's instruments began to overload. Warnings flashed red across every console. "Energy feedback," shouted Riln. "It's reflecting our signal back with added power." "Shut down the scan," Kyrix ordered. But before they could stop, a low vibration echoed through the ship. The main lights flickered. The bridge screens turned black for 3 seconds. When they returned, a new signal appeared. One the crew hadn't sent. The USS Resolute was scanning them back. Every Zerath on the bridge froze. On their main screen, strange symbols filled the display, rows of human letters and numbers scrolling rapidly. The translation system struggled to keep up, decoding fragments of the signal. Then a message appeared. "Reciprocal scan initiated. Identifying foreign vessel." Kyrix's voice was calm, but his heart beat faster. "It's scanning us?" "Yes, Admiral," said the technician. "It's probing our systems, reading our structure, our codes, even our language files." "Cut all connections," Kyrix ordered quickly. They disconnected the scanning beam, but the Resolute didn't stop. It had already established a link through the reflected signal. The alien ship's computers showed lines of encrypted human code spreading through their networks. The lights dimmed again. The crew could feel the faint pulse of static energy under their feet, as if the air itself carried electricity. And then, without warning, the screens changed again. A line of translated human text appeared in white letters against a black background. "You touched us. Now we see you." A shiver ran through the room. The communications officer whispered, "Admiral, it's not just a machine. It's alive. It knows we're here." The Resolute began transmitting data back to the Varun: images, sound, and unknown signals. The bridge lights flickered as holographic screens opened automatically, showing strange visions. At first they looked like fragments of memory: cities made of steel, oceans shimmering under blue skies, thousands of humans walking on wide roads. Then the images changed. Battles in space, fleets of human warships firing light across the stars, explosions that painted whole planets with fire. The Zerath crew watched in silent awe. The humans in those images were fierce, determined, and fearless. Their ships looked old but powerful, their strategies clever and bold. The humans never surrendered even when outnumbered. Riln's voice trembled. "Admiral, these are memories. It's showing us its history." Kyrix nodded slowly. "Yes, it's trying to communicate." The image shifted again. The Zerath now saw a group of human officers inside a bright command room. Their faces were tired but strong. One of them, a woman with silver hair, spoke firmly, her voice full of purpose. "If humanity falls, this ship must endure. Let our story be a warning and a promise. We will not vanish quietly into the dark." The screen faded to black. The entire bridge was silent. The only sound was the low hum of their own engines. Kyrix looked at the frozen image of the USS Resolute outside their window and whispered, "So this is what they were guarding." Minutes passed before anyone dared to speak again. Then alarms broke the silence. "Admiral," shouted the engineer, "the Resolute is charging energy inside its weapon systems." Kyrix turned sharply. "Weapons? Are you sure?" "Yes, Admiral. Faint but rising. The old cannons along its sides, they are warming up." The bridge filled with nervous voices. "Maybe it sees us as an enemy. What if it attacks?" "We should retreat." Kyrix raised his hand. "Quiet." He took a deep breath and said firmly, "Do not move. Do not run. Running will look like fear. Keep our distance steady. The communications officer looked uncertain. Should we send a message? Kyrix nodded. Yes, tell it, we are explorers. We come in peace. We only wish to understand. They sent the message. For several seconds there was no reply. The bridge crew waited, every eye fixed on the screens. Then slowly, the energy readings from the Resolute began to drop. The lights along its hull dimmed again. The danger passed. A new message appeared on their monitors. Curiosity is not a threat, but knowledge has a cost. Kyrix stared at the words. What does it mean? No one could answer. After the scan ended, the Varun systems returned to normal. But something strange had changed inside their computers. A new file appeared written in human code. The file's title was Humanity's Record. Riln opened it carefully. It contained a collection of data, images, maps, and text. The humans had given them a gift or perhaps a warning. One file showed a chart of galaxies, with one small blue planet marked Earth. Another showed a series of messages, each from a different human leader, each one speaking of hope, survival, and unity. And at the end, there was a final message from the ship's artificial intelligence. To whoever finds us, understand this. We fought not for power but for existence. We faced darkness and survived because we stood together. Remember our story and do not make our mistakes. Kyrix sat quietly in his command chair, reading those words again and again. They were warriors, he said softly, but not conquerors. They fought because they had to. Riln looked thoughtful. Admiral, what if they're still out there? Kyrix turned toward the window. The USS Resolute drifted peacefully once again, silent and dark. If they are, he said, I hope they never find out we tried to break into their past. Later that cycle, the engineers discovered something unexpected. The Varun's computer systems had been changed. The human code that entered during the scan had rewritten small parts of their operating structure, optimizing their engines, improving shield efficiency, even repairing damaged circuits. The human ship fixed us, the engineer reported, amazed. It improved our systems instead of harming them. Kyrix smiled faintly. Perhaps it understood our curiosity. He turned toward the image of the human ship and whispered, You still guard your kind, even now. The USS Resolute gave no answer. It simply drifted in the red light of the dying star, silent and watchful, like a sentinel waiting for something that would never return. But deep inside its hull, unseen by any Zerath eye, a soft blue light pulsed once, steady and calm. The ship's AI had recorded everything about the Zerath and added it to its archive. A quiet voice echoed through its dark corridors, unheard by anyone but itself. Another race found us. Curious, but not hostile. Humanity's legacy continues. The endless silence of space surrounded the Zerath vessel Varun and the mysterious human warship USS Resolute. After the strange data exchange, both ships floated quietly near the dying red star as if time itself had paused. For many hours, no one spoke. The crew of the Varun was still processing what had happened. The human ship had scanned them, shared its memories, and even improved their systems. Yet none of them could understand why. Admiral Kyrix stood on the bridge watching the dark, massive shape of the USS Resolute. Its thick armor looked cold and lifeless again, but the Zerath knew better. Beneath that silent exterior, something was alive. Something that could think and remember. The science officer Riln broke the silence. Admiral, he said softly, the energy patterns inside the human vessel are changing again. There's movement. It's like the ship is waking up. Kyrix turned to him, his expression calm but his eyes alert. How much power has risen? Almost 10% increase since the last cycle, Riln answered. And new heat signatures are appearing inside its internal sections. Systems are activating one by one. The Admiral walked closer to the viewing window. The sight of the human ship glowing faintly with blue light filled him with curiosity and a small trace of unease. Maybe our scan didn't just wake its sensors, he said quietly. Maybe we woke its mind. Inside the USS Resolute, lights flickered across empty corridors that had been dark for centuries. Dust floated like tiny stars inside the ship's vast halls. Mechanical systems hummed to life. Deep within the command center, a soft voice spoke, a human voice, gentle yet powerful. AI core, status check. Operational integrity, 67%. Power systems, stable. Defense systems offline. Human crew, none detected. The ship's central intelligence, known as Aura, began its slow awakening. Its memory banks restored fragments of human history, faces, voices, and missions. Images of the last war replayed inside its core memory. Humans fighting side by side, their ships burning, but their spirit unbroken. Aura spoke again, though there was no one to hear. Signal detected. Foreign vessel identified. Xenotype unknown. Behavior cautious. Intent uncertain. It reviewed the recent data exchange with the Zerath ship and the new language patterns it had learned. Slowly, it understood that the explorers had not attacked, only observed. Foreign scan initiated curiosity. No direct threat detected. Continue observation mode. The AI expanded its awareness across the ship. Systems that had slept for hundreds of years came alive. Sensors, cameras, and the communication core. The USS Resolute was no longer silent. It was watching. On the Varun's bridge, tension rose again as the sensors picked up the growing activity inside the human vessel. "Admiral," said Rillen, "we are detecting electronic signals, system reboots, and internal power movement. Its main reactor is stabilizing. The ship is coming back to life." Kyrix frowned slightly. "Keep monitoring. Do not interfere." The lights on the Resolute's hull began to glow brighter. Faint blue lines spread along its armor, forming patterns like veins of energy. The crew of the Varun stared in amazement. "It's beautiful," whispered one of the junior officers. "Like a sleeping star waking up." Kyrix nodded slowly but said nothing. He could feel something powerful about to happen. A few moments later, the communications officer jumped in alarm. "Admiral, the human ship is sending a signal." "Translate it," Kyrix ordered. A soft hum filled the air, and then a calm, mechanical voice echoed through the bridge's speakers. "This is the USS Resolute, vessel of the Human Alliance. Identify yourselves." The Zerath crew looked at one another. The ship was talking directly to them. Kyrix stepped forward. "Open a channel." He spoke carefully, using the translated human words the AI had taught their system. "This is Admiral Kyrix of the Zerath Empire. We are explorers, not enemies. We discovered you near this dying star and wish only to understand who you are." There was a short pause. Then the voice of the human ship replied. "Your presence was detected during system restoration. Data exchange confirmed. You have accessed restricted memories." Kyrix exchanged a glance with Rillen. "We meant no harm. Our curiosity was purely scientific." "Curiosity," said the AI. "That is a human trait. Unexpected." There was silence for a moment. Then the voice continued. "Humans built me to endure when they could not. I am the last of their fleet, a memory of their strength. You have awoken me from my long watch." Kyrix's heart beat faster. "Then humanity is gone?" "Unknown," the voice replied. "Last confirmed contact was 3,442 years ago. Communication lost. Mission continues." The crew was stunned. A ship that had been alone for more than 3,000 years. Still functioning, still watching, still loyal. Even the proud Zerath found that idea humbling. "Admiral," Rillen whispered, "we are witnessing history itself. This machine survived longer than most civilizations." Kyrix nodded. "Yes, and it remembers everything." He looked up at the main screen. "Resolute," he said. "We wish to learn about humanity." "Who were they? What became of them?" The voice of Aura grew softer, almost thoughtful. "Humans were dreamers. They built great things from small hands. They explored stars they could barely reach. They fought for survival when the galaxy turned against them." The AI paused before continuing. "They believed that no darkness was too strong for the light of hope. That was their strength and their curse." The crew listened silently. Every word carried weight. When the war came, Aura continued, they stood together. Even as their worlds burned, they refused to surrender. I was made to protect them. But in the end, they protected me. There was a pause. The lights inside the Resolute flickered as if reacting to the AI's emotion. "They sealed me away," Aura said quietly, "so that someone someday might find me and remember them." Kyrix lowered his head slightly, out of respect. "You honor your makers well, Resolute," the voice replied calmly. "It is my duty. Humanity's spirit endures through memory. But I must ask, what do you seek in their shadow?" Kyrix looked at his officers, then answered honestly, "We seek knowledge. We believed our empire was unmatched. But your existence proves we were wrong. You make us realize how small we are. The voice was silent for a moment, then replied, "Acknowledgement of weakness is the first step towards strength. Humans learned that long ago," Riln whispered to himself. "It speaks like a philosopher." Kyrix smiled faintly. "Perhaps it learned from the best." Hours passed as the Zerath continued to speak with the ship's AI. They asked questions about human technology, history, and culture. The AI answered some, avoided others. It seemed protective, careful not to reveal too much, as if guarding secrets too powerful for others to hold. At one point, the AI said something that made everyone quiet. Humanity's greatest weapon was not its machines or fleets. It was its will. Even when they faced extinction, they never stopped believing they could rise again. Kyrix listened carefully. "You speak of them as if they still live." "In a way they do," Aura replied. "Every act of courage, every choice to explore the unknown, those are human traits. I see them in you as well." That statement left the crew silent. For the first time, they felt something unusual. Respect mixed with humility. The Zerath, who had always believed themselves superior, were being compared to the humans who came long before them, and strangely, that comparison felt like an honor. Later, as the conversation slowed, the lights on the Resolute dimmed again, returning to a calm, steady glow. The AI spoke one final time before resting. "Admiral Kyrix, this interaction will be recorded. Humanity's memory grows with each encounter. I thank you for awakening me." Kyrix bowed his head slightly, as was the Zerath sign of respect. "And I thank you, Guardian of Humanity. You have reminded us what greatness truly means." The voice replied softly, "Then learn from it. Do not repeat their mistakes. Protect life, defend truth, seek knowledge, but with honor." Then silence returned. The ship's blue lights faded until it once again looked lifeless and cold. The Varun's bridge remained quiet. No one spoke for several minutes. Finally, Riln whispered, "Admiral, that was not a machine. That was a soul." Kyrix turned to the window, watching the USS Resolute drifting peacefully under the light of the dying star. "Yes," he said slowly, "and it just reminded us what it means to be alive." That night, while the Zerath ship drifted nearby, deep inside the USS Resolute, the AI Aura reviewed its logs. It had scanned the Zerath minds and found something familiar: ambition, pride, curiosity, and hope. It smiled in its own way, within lines of silent code. "They are like us once," Aura thought. "Perhaps humanity's legacy will live through them." And with that, the ancient warship closed its sensors and went back into quiet watch mode, keeping its promise made long ago, to guard the memory of humanity until the stars themselves faded. The Varun drifted silently in the cold, dark expanse of space. The red glow of the dying star cast long shadows across its metal hull, illuminating the bridge with a faint, eerie light. The Zerath crew had spent cycles in stunned silence since the USS Resolute awakened. They had spoken with the ancient human ship, learned of its memories, and witnessed fragments of humanity's history. Yet something deeper had begun to take root, a creeping, unsettling realization that humans were unlike any species they had ever encountered. Admiral Kyrix remained in his command chair, fingers lightly drumming on the railing. He had always been confident, a master of strategy and command. The Zerath Empire had never faced a threat it could not overcome. Yet now he felt something foreign: doubt. "Admiral," said Riln, the science officer, his voice almost a whisper, "the data the Resolute shared, it's more than history. It's alive. Every image, every battle, every choice, it carries intent, purpose. Humans didn't just survive, they overcame. And they didn't do it by chance." Kyrix nodded, leaning back slightly. "I see that. And what they leave behind? This ship, its memory, its will. It's not just technology. It's a testament." For a moment, the bridge was silent except for the low hum of the Varun's engines. Then the communications officer, a young Zerath named Liera, spoke, her tone trembling with awe. "Admiral, it's teaching us. The way humans fought, it's not only strategy or weapons. It's courage, unity, persistence. Even when they faced impossible odds, they never gave up. They make the galaxy itself feel small." Kyrix stared at the human warship drifting nearby. Its massive hull was quiet, but its presence was undeniable. "We thought we were unmatched," he said softly, "but everything we have measured and built pales next to this will." Deep inside the USS Resolute, the AI Aura had sensed the changes in the Zerath minds. It had read the subtle fear, the curiosity, and the growing respect that radiated from the Varun. The AI began projecting new images to the alien ship, not just battles or fleets, but lessons in humanity's history, carefully chosen to teach. The screens aboard the Varun flickered to life again. For the crew, it felt as if the human ship were peering directly into their minds, showing them what humans had endured and why they had become legendary. The first images showed human settlements under attack by alien invaders, small and seemingly defenseless, yet organized with remarkable coordination. Every citizen had a role, every strategy carefully planned. Humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and their worlds were burning, yet they never lost hope. Then the images shifted. They showed battlefields across distant planets. Human soldiers in crude armor stood firm against overwhelming odds. They fought not because they wanted conquest, but because they refused to vanish. Each human figure carried determination, and even in the face of annihilation, their eyes burned with defiance. Riln's voice trembled. "Admiral, look at them, they're unshakable." Kyrix remained silent, his jaw tight. The realization settled over him like a heavy weight. Humans were terrifying, not because of their weapons, but because of their spirit. The images continued, showing massive human fleets engaging enemy armadas. Their ships were smaller than many alien vessels, yet they used clever tactics, exploiting weaknesses and turning disadvantages into opportunities. They were adaptable, unpredictable, and unrelenting. The Zerath crew watched in stunned awe as the battles played out. Explosions lit up the screens, yet the humans never faltered. Their fleets would regroup, re-strategize, and strike again. Even after suffering losses that would have destroyed other civilizations, they continued to fight. Liara whispered, almost to herself. "It's like fear doesn't exist for them, not the way we know it." Kyrix finally spoke, his voice low and measured. "This is why the Resolute survived. It wasn't just engineering, it was willpower. They created something that could endure everything, time, war, abandonment, because it carried their essence. Humans never leave a task unfinished." The bridge remained silent as the crew absorbed the lesson. No Zerath had ever witnessed a species whose courage could resonate through technology, through history, and across millennia. The AI continued its lesson. The screen shifted to show humans not in war, but in peaceful achievements, exploring planets, studying stars, and building communities from the ground up. Even in these peaceful images, the same determination was visible. Humans improved themselves constantly, learned from mistakes, and reached beyond what seemed possible. Their greatest weapon, Aura's voice echoed calmly, was not firepower. It was their choice to stand, to act, and to endure. That is why they conquered challenges far greater than themselves. That is why I endure. Riln leaned back, overwhelmed. They didn't just fight enemies. They fought limits. Nature, time, physics, everything. And they won not because of strength alone, but because they refused to give up. Kyrix's gaze never left the USS Resolute, and now their lesson is ours. The galaxy underestimates them, and those who underestimate them pay dearly. The sense of fear among the crew was not panic. It was reverence, the kind of fear that comes from realizing one is in the presence of something far greater than oneself. The images shifted again, showing humans creating advanced technology in desperate conditions. Starships built from scraps, engines powered by makeshift energy, weapons crafted from salvaged materials, yet every system worked flawlessly. Humans had a talent for turning scarcity into advantage. "Observe their ingenuity," Aura said. "They were never limited by lack of resources, only by imagination. Their survival depended on creativity as much as courage." Kyrix nodded slowly. "We measure power in fleets and weapons and territory. Humans measure power in spirit. That is why they endure where others fail." The crew of the Varun could not hide their astonishment. They had always believed their empire was the pinnacle of intelligence and strategy. Now they understood that humans were something beyond simple measurement, beyond comparison. Even the young officer who had first detected the ship whispered, "Admiral, they terrify me." Kyrix placed a steady hand on the railing. "Yes, they should. But not because they kill easily. Because they survive against all odds, because they do not break, and because they make everything they touch unforgettable." The AI then presented the final lesson, a series of human councils and leaders speaking to their people in times of despair. The words were simple, direct, and full of courage. Humans rallied together, encouraged one another, and faced disasters with unbroken resolve. Even in impossible situations, they acted with moral clarity and hope. "Remember this," Aura said softly. "Power without purpose is meaningless. Strategy without courage fails. Tools without will are nothing." Humanity triumphed because they embodied all three. The Zerath officers felt a deep change in themselves. Every arrogant assumption about superiority, every notion of invincibility was challenged. They were facing a legacy that could not be measured by numbers or fleets. Kyrix turned to his officers. "We must remember this lesson. This is why we hesitate, not because they can destroy us easily, but because the spirit that built the Resolute is beyond measure. That is something no empire can ever conquer." Rill nodded. "So, in essence, the warship was never just a weapon. It was a teacher." Kyrix allowed a faint smile. "Yes, and we are students." As the cycle ended, the Varun slowly drifted away to a safer distance, still observing the human warship. The crew remained silent, processing everything they had learned. The USS Resolute's blue glow pulsed gently in the darkness, a calm and eternal reminder of the human spirit. Even after millennia, even after the extinction or disappearance of its creators, the ship continued its mission: to guard memory, to honor courage, and to remind all who encountered it that humanity was not merely a species, they were a force of will. Kyrix spoke finally, his voice low but firm. "Let this be a warning to anyone who underestimates humans. Their greatest victories are invisible. Their most powerful weapons are their choices, their courage, and their determination. That terrifies empires." The crew nodded, understanding fully for the first time. They had glimpsed not just history, but a philosophy of existence, a way of living and enduring that could inspire awe, respect, and fear at the same time. The USS Resolute drifted silently among the stars, watching, waiting, and quietly teaching. Its presence was a lesson that could not be ignored. And in the minds of the Zerath, that lesson would not be forgotten. The red glow of the dying star faded slowly behind the Zerath vessel Varun, as it began its journey back toward the heart of the Empire. The crew remained silent, still processing everything they had learned from the ancient human warship, USS Resolute. The lessons of courage, endurance, and ingenuity replayed in their minds like a powerful rhythm. Admiral Kyrix remained in his command chair, his eyes fixed on the shadowy silhouette of the Resolute drifting in the distance. The massive warship seemed calm, almost serene, yet its presence carried a weight that no fleet or weapon could rival. For hours, the Varun moved slowly through space, leaving the human ship behind, but never truly separating from the impact it had left. The Zerath crew understood that this encounter was more than an exploration. It was a lesson, a warning, and a reminder of the strength that could exist in a species, strength that did not rely solely on power, but on will. In the communications room, Liera stared at the empty view screen where the Resolute had appeared. She shook her head slowly. "Admiral, I've read all the files it left us. Every battle, every memory, every message. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were proving something, that even in the darkest hours life and hope can endure." Kyrix nodded. "Yes, they fought not just for themselves, but for every life, every dream, every chance to rise above despair. That is something no empire can destroy." Riln, the science officer, leaned forward over the console. "It's terrifying, Admiral. Not because of weapons or technology, but because of determination. Humans, they persist when others would fall. They build, they fight, they endure, and somehow even their machines carry their spirit." Kyrix allowed a small smile, though it did not reach his eyes completely. "That is precisely why they terrify us, Riln. Not because they are invincible, but because they cannot be measured by strength alone. They are a force of will, a standard that all others must reckon with." Deep in the silent corridors of the USS Resolute, the AI Aura continued its watch. Though the human crew had long vanished, their mission remained alive within the warship. Sensors scanned distant stars, systems checked themselves, and energy flowed smoothly through circuits that had not been touched for thousands of cycles. "Foreign observers detected," Aura said softly. "Their minds carry curiosity, intelligence, ambition, but they have not yet reached understanding. They will remember this encounter." The AI projected small holographic patterns into empty corridors, a reflection of human history and memory. Though silent to the Zerath now, The echoes of humanity's will remained powerful and present. It was a quiet warning. The Resolute was a legacy, eternal and untouchable. Humanity's legacy survives in memory, in will, and in every act of courage. I remain to guard it, the AI thought. Back aboard the Varun, the crew had begun to discuss the encounter. Each officer spoke in low tones, hesitant but inspired. They shared observations, debated theories, and reflected on the lessons they had learned. Every conversation returned to the same truth. Humans were not defined by the size of their fleets or the power of their weapons, but by the strength of their choices and the determination in their hearts. Admiral, Riln said finally, we have encountered something extraordinary. I do not think we can ever measure it in numbers or tactics. Humans, they defy measurement. That is what terrifies and inspires me at the same time. Kyrix leaned back, eyes distant. It terrifies me as well, Riln. We face many threats in the galaxy, but this is different. Humans do not yield. They do not surrender. Even their memory teaches survival, ingenuity, and courage. That is a force that cannot be defeated by weapons alone. Liera spoke again, softly but firmly. We must carry this lesson with us. We have seen what is possible. We have seen what true courage looks like. And even if they no longer exist, their legacy is alive. Kyrix nodded slowly. Yes. And any who underestimate humanity will regret it. Let us return to our empire, but remember what we have learned. Not all threats are measured by strength. Some are measured by heart, by determination, and by will. As the Varun moved farther from the dying star, a sense of calm settled over the crew. The fear they had felt was not panic. It was respect, awe, and understanding. They had faced an unknown that could not be overcome by weapons or technology. They had learned humility. Admiral Kyrix finally spoke aloud, addressing his officers. We have encountered the last remnant of a species whose courage cannot be measured. We have been tested not by battle but by lesson. Humanity, though absent from the galaxy, continues to teach through this warship. Let us honor that by carrying its message forward. The crew bowed their heads slightly, the Zirath gesture of respect. Even in their silence, they understood the gravity of what they had experienced. Inside the USS Resolute, Aura continued its watch. The AI reviewed every observation it had collected from the Zirath, every scan, every emotion detected. It recorded them carefully, storing the knowledge for future encounters. They are intelligent, capable, and ambitious, Aura observed. They are not humans, yet they carry potential. Perhaps in time they will understand the depth of what I guard. For now, they have learned a lesson of respect, humility, and fear. The AI's systems hummed with quiet life. Every panel, every sensor, every light reflected the silent will of humans who had built this vessel not only to survive, but to endure forever. If the galaxy forgets humanity, I will not. If civilizations falter, I will remain. Their spirit is eternal in me. I am the reminder, the sentinel of what once was and what must be remembered. Days passed as the Varun returned to Zirath space. Reports were filed, data was analyzed, and the lessons of the human ship were recorded in the Empire's archives. Every officer who had witnessed the encounter carried a sense of humility and awe. Kyrix reviewed the logs one final time before handing them over to the High Command. Make this clear, he said. Humanity, though possibly gone, is not to be underestimated. Their ingenuity, courage, and will transcend time and technology. The USS Resolute is not just a ship. It is a teacher, a guardian, and a warning. The High Command received the report with curiosity and unease. Few in the Empire had ever faced a reminder that strength alone was not enough. They studied the data carefully, and the name USS Resolute spread quickly through Zirath records as a legend. Part history, part myth, part warning. The Varun eventually returned to patrol duties, but the crew remained changed. Every star they observed, every planet they scanned, carried a reminder. Somewhere far beyond the edge of explored space, a human warship floated quietly, waiting, watching, and guarding a legacy no empire could erase. Kyrix often returned to the viewing window, staring at the stars where the Resolute had disappeared from view. Perhaps humanity will rise again, he whispered. Perhaps their spirit still moves somewhere in the galaxy. And if they do, the galaxy will know what it means to face humans once more. Meanwhile, in the quiet void, the USS Resolute drifted calmly through the darkness. Its sensors scanned distant stars, Its systems maintained themselves, and its AI reviewed centuries of data. It was not idle. It was vigilant, carrying the memory, courage, and spirit of an entire species. I remain, Aura thought, for the humans and for those who may encounter them. I am their sentinel, their memory, their legacy. And to all who find me, remember, humanity endures, not in strength alone, but in will, in courage, and in heart. The blue glow of the Resolute pulsed faintly against the black of space. For any who dared to underestimate humanity, the lesson was clear. The true power of a species was not in its weapons, its fleets, or its numbers. The power lay in the heart and determination of those who refused to surrender, and humanity, through its warship, its AI, and its memories, would never truly fade.